Welcome to Attican Plays Workers and Resources, Soviet Republic. All right, hi, this is Attican, and welcome to part 5 of our second playthrough of Workers and Resources, Soviet Republic. We are going to, in this one, just show an excellent example of how to plug a new module into our system and how to really take advantage of our downtown. Checking out, first of all, just to see where we are. We're getting like 95% productivity. Sorry, I couldn't think of the word. Average productivity, we're like 98% happiness. We're getting almost 0 escapes. So everything is working nicely. So here, checking to see what our imports are. And power, we're still importing power. We're still importing crops, but last episode we hopefully took care of that by planting some farms, and we're going to start bringing crops in. In fact, I'm going down here to check on it and to see the farms. And I can tell you that there was an update between the time I put these farms out there in 4 and what we're looking at here, because those farms have reset and they're actually working now. Off camera, I had loaded this back up because it looked suspicious to me, and those farms were not working prior to an update that went out. They weren't loading correctly. They weren't all being planted. The first 4 got planted, and then everything just kind of shut down. But that appears to be fixed now, and something else is going to happen here in a little bit later on in this episode that will definitely take care of this, because I do think we had a little corruption there. Remember, this is an early access game. So what we're going to do in this episode is we're going to plug power into our system. So we're going to start creating all of our own power. We're going to have our own coal ore being cleaned up in a processing plant and pumped into our power plant. We're going to actually start exporting power. So we're going to flip that power around to the point where we have sufficient power for our republic and we're making a profit on our power. So I'm looking at the place. We know there's great coal all along this mountain ridge down here near our refinery, Ropi. And this is the area that in the first playthrough I built the city of Mansk. And there's coal all along this. And the temptation would be to do what we did in the first one again and build another city down there. Well, here's the issue with that. We're not really that strong economically yet. We're good. We've survived. We're looking fine, but we're not that strong. And we would have to build an entire city down there with all the stuff in order to make a go of running coal out of those mines the way we did in the first playthrough. But this time what we're going to do instead, we're going to take advantage of the city we already have going. We know that we've got a downtown that's strong, that can support more people, and we want to really leverage it so that we are filling up that shopping center pretty much all the time, that cinema has a lot of people in it, the pub has a lot of people in it. We want to get a lot of use out of those buildings we've already invested in. So what we're going to do is kind of flip things around, and we're going to run our coal down this mountain from this side down the other way toward our city and set up a nice little power module just down here, just down this hill. And that's going to give us the ability to leverage what we already have in place and not have to duplicate a lot of the infrastructure that cost us a lot to put in. And we've already got them, we've got food being taken to the shopping center, and we've got alcohol being taken to the pub, so we're not importing any, and we want to continue that practice. So what we're going to do here is just build a nice little road that comes down that hill and hooks up with the road we'd already built to run fuel out to that diesel fueling station. And we're just going to run our road down here and hook it into our already existing system. So one lesson learned here is that the game doesn't seem to like these kind of merges that aren't subtle. It seems to like right angle merges because I worked on this and couldn't really get it to merge the way I wanted it to. And the ground doesn't look that uneven to me. It just doesn't, it's not that bad. So I played with this for a bit and then finally went back and went into a more right angle kind of merge, and it worked just fine. So keep that in mind. You might want to think about right angles. So see that it just doesn't want to take that little kind of slight, but see there, I go back a little bit and it works just fine. So anyway, going to build that road, going to go ahead and build out the whole infrastructure here for what our power needs to look like. And well, now let's just go ahead through it. We'll go through it. Some of you are new to the game and you haven't done the sort of conveyors and all that stuff. So we'll go ahead and just walk through this whole thing. All right, so what we want to do is set up a simple conveyor system that will take mined coal ore down off the mine and put it in this aggregate store down here in this flat spot. Then that flat spot will be our first point of departure. We'll use that to store the ore, and then of course hook that into our coal ore processing plant, and that will allow us to create usable coal. And then of course the coal ore processing will be hooked into our power plant, and voila, we've got coal going into our power plant. And also want to use the store, and definitely want the store rather than running the ore directly into the coal ore processing plant, because we'll be able to create more coal ore than the processing plant can handle. So we want to start accumulating it here, and later on when we have a surplus, if we really see that we're out producing, then we can put in another coal ore processing plant or do other things with that coal ore. But if we don't have a place to store it, it's only going to produce as fast as the processing plant will take it, and that's going to be a bit of a weakness for us. And in fact, in this particular design, as it turns out, the other thing is I don't have a store for the coal itself. I think if I was going to do this one over, I would have the feed into the coal ore processing, then a feed into a coal storage, and then from there into the power plant. But having said that, my goal here was to set up a power plant and plug in one of our modules. So anyway, going to level out the ground a little bit using the footprint of the coal ore processing plant, just to give us a little space to work in here. I like the technique. Having the level ground is great. I don't like overdoing it. I think it looks unrealistic, but it is very handy sometimes to give yourself some space to work with. It does make life a lot easier. So there's our processing plant. We do a little leveling. And the problem with that technique, you can see the kind of the rise or the hill that you're kind of creating. So I'm going to try to soften that a little bit by using the regular terrain tool to kind of flatten this out and soften the impact so that we haven't created a big dip there between where we're going to eventually put in our processing plant and the rest of the build. So the idea here, while this is going on, because there's only so much I can say about this stuff, but let me explain the idea. The idea is that we're going to have these two, the processing plant and the power plant down here. We're going to have them set up with a community that's within walking distance of them. But the key is our new little community is going to be built around. It's going to be built. The edge of it will be, there will be flats that are up against these two plants so that we can get people walking in there to work. But that's going to be the edge of it. The inside of the community will be bus stations, the school, and the kindergarten. So we're going to have a kind of a central, it's almost like you could think of it as a downtown, but it's just like the little center of our new module. Our new module is going to have a center, which is basically the bus stops, the school, and the kindergarten, and then the 2 bus stops will be set up. One will be for workers to go up here to the coal mine, and because they can't walk all the way up there, and the other bus stop will be to take passengers into downtown so that everybody can get their needs fulfilled. So now we're setting up the conveyor system. You just set up these conveyor engines, the transfer engines. You point them toward where the stuff is coming from and line them up so that they can turn the stuff around and take it where you want it to go. That was super easy. We just needed 2 engines to get down from the mine and down into the aggregate store. And now I'm going to make sure to put a substation out here and put it down, stretch it as far as it'll stretch and still hit the coal mine, because the coal mine is the farthest away point. So I want to get it stretched out so that it'll hit the coal mine, and then that way it'll get as much as possible on down the hill, because that's where more and more of the action will take place. So we're going to put in a substation, and even though I'm watching the money, and we're going to do this as kind of a big build, and this is really all being planned, the substations I found I like to go ahead and build them, because, in fact, there I goofed one up. I had it turned the wrong way. But I like to build the substations, actually go ahead and build them, because they're hard to see. For me, I lose them sometimes, so I'll go ahead and build them. Sometimes if you have them just planned, it's hard to find that little tiny little square that represents the planned substation. So we'll go ahead and build that, and probably at a little bit later we'll start running all the wires and stuff and getting electricity planned out as well. But now we've got a substation in a very strategic spot where it can get to the coal mine and then as much as possible on down the hill, including our transfer engines and the aggregate store and anything else that needs power down through there. So now we've got to figure out how we're going to get the power. So the power, the way it's lined up, the coal ore is going out of that aggregate storage up the screen. And the input for the coal ore processing is up the screen. So we've got to find a way to go up to an engine and then back down, up from the aggregate store and then back down to the coal ore processing. So I'm hoping, and notice I've got the auto build turned off. We're taking advantage of our excavators and bulldozers to do this quote free unquote terraforming. So I'm hoping that we can put one right here and it'll kind of do the trick for both. But unfortunately it's at too big of an angle and it's just not going to work. So take it down, put it back, put it in a place where it will work. And what eventually is going to happen, since that didn't work, it's becoming pretty clear if you've done this for much time, it's becoming pretty clear that we will have to use a couple of transfers, one to go up and one to go over and then back down. So this transfer will allow us to go up the screen coming out, and then we'll move it over to one and then go back down into the, see there, I've already kind of figured it out. Okay, we're going to have to build a few. We're going to have to build 2. So I'm going to put that up there and put it as high as we can get it up there, but it doesn't really matter. And that way we can now hook up. We should be able to hook up this stuff. And one thing you really want to do is, before you commit to building any of these transfer engines, you want to make sure that you can run that conveyor, because if the conveyor won't go, there's no point in it. So here we have a problem with the roads. So the thing you want to start doing here, what I've found really works the best, is figure out how you're going to handle the road before you can always take a road out and then put your conveyor in, and then just by curving the road a little bit, you can typically find a path through. You can find a spot where the conveyor is up at its highest and go through it there. So there, that's what I've done there. The idea is you can just run the road a little to the right there the way we're looking at it, and not have to go through. But at the same time, I'll go back and look at it again and realize that after that pipe was run, by just simply moving the road over a little bit. So here I'm going to check the road. Okay, can we go back through there though? And sure enough, look at that. We can still go through. So now we can still have that shorter, more direct line and have our conveyor as well. And we have got a nice place to hook up all of our buildings we put out there, 2 roads, in case there's fire coverage. Now, the truth is there probably won't be, at least early on, until our economy is way stronger. We won't have fire coverage all the way up here. Our fire station from downtown is probably not going to be able to cover that way up there. I've not tested the boundaries of fire stations yet, and that's something we'll want to do. If anybody has done that and kind of figured out what its range, that would be useful information for all of us. So what I'm going to do here is put in the power plant, as I said, down here to the left of the coal ore processing, right there in line, so that the out from the processing matches the in from the power plant. Also puts that road there in the middle between them, and I'm giving enough space so that we'll have room to put the road. You have to kind of plan for that road to make sure that that road that you can see to the right of the power plant, we want to make sure that that can come out and curve back downstream to where our community is going to be, where our folks are going to be that would man that power plant. So here I'm running the road out, making sure that we can get a road out of there nice and cleanly that will end up, and we'll just use that line as kind of the center of our community. I'm also going to run it on up the other way, because what I'm seeing now is if we set up the center of our community kind of where the cursor is there, and we can then set up our bus route to run up there, pick up the road that we've already created, and then run up the hill to the mine to deliver workers to the mine. Now here we've got a little bit of a terrain mismatch. So we want to extend that road, and really all we have to do here is just take the tool and lower the hill a little bit. If you kind of hold the red over your building, it's not going to change that. It's only going to work out there in that green part, but that's cool. We just want to knock the hill down a little bit to allow us to extend the road so that we can hook this up. But now we see there is a mismatch in elevation. That section up there where the coal ore processing plant is up higher than the rest of this. So we're going to kind of lower the ground a little bit around it to see if we can smooth it out. And there we go. Now we can come out of the plant, and now we're just going to have to again level out the ground a little bit more. So we're just going to smooth out the ground through here so that it's a little bit less drastic of a change in elevation. It seems that the road and track are really sensitive to these small little dips and stuff. That's what it doesn't like. So now we've got our road going in, cool. We've got the beginnings of our structure set up. So you can kind of picture where we're headed down screen here toward us. That's where our little community is going to be, and they're going to be right up against those plants, at least several of the flats that we build, so that we can have people walking to the power plant and the coal ore processing plant. So I'm going to take a quick look at my spreadsheet to see how many flats I really want to build. So what I'm going to do is go over to the city plan and go down to and look at a worker block. And I've already actually got this loaded. I need 265 workers, 30 max for the power plant, 15 for the coal ore processing, 220 for the coal mine. So there's 265 industry workers, plus the workers that are calculated for plan to put a kindergarten, a school, and a couple of playgrounds. So it tells me I need 75, 11. I decided to do different buildings this time, so it doesn't all look the same. I'm going to use the flats that have 75 as the base. So it tells me we need 11 75s plus a 20 in order to get the right number of people there. And those of you who aren't familiar, remember you really kind of need, if you want to try to get close to your max efficiency, you need to have 3 times the max number of people available. So for example, just a quick example, that power plant needs 20 people max. You really need to have 60 people available who can go there to work, because they work in 8-hour shifts, and it's really more than that because there are delays in their cycles. But at the simplest, you need at least 3 times the number of people who could potentially work in that plant in order to come close to getting your 100% efficiency. Now, 100% is very hard to get, but still, you want. I try to plan for 3 times, and knowing that that's not going to get me quite to 100%, but it's going to do all right. So now there's five of them. We want to build a total of 11. So what we're going to do here is have a path running all the way across so that it's easy for these 5 to go down screen, just as it's easy for them to go up screen to those plants because they've got a road connection. And then we're going to layer in kind of the center of our little community, which again will be 2 small bus stations, 1 for workers, 1 for passengers, a school, and a pub. So, sorry, not a pub, a kindergarten, the opposite of a pub. So we're going to set in 2 bus stations here, and the school and the kindergarten in the middle, and again use that as the center of our community. Okay, so now the key thing is to make sure that we're building this so that all of our flats in our little community can walk to those 4 buildings, the 2 bus stations, the kindergarten, and the school. If they can do that, then we are good to go. Assuming in this particular case that we've got flats that can easily walk to the power plant and the coal or processing plant as well. So so that again, that's going to be the focus. And you notice I did speed that up a little bit. You also notice how easy it was to fix that little problem where the kindergarten was sitting up a little bit too high for the road. All you have to do is just take out the road and then just kind of flatten out a little bit, just enough to get that road going down through there. It's not, you don't have to overkill it. You don't have to overdo it. Just do it just enough. So again, here we are setting in some more flats, and we're going to build them kind of around the center, and we want to make sure that it's easy to go in both directions for these people so that they can walk to wherever they need to go. So let me speed this up again, and as I go through this. So again, as long as you get the idea, that central location of those 4 key buildings, then our flats built kind of around that so they can all easily walk to all 4. And then make sure, and then later on we'll go into more detail on how you set up the buses to make the whole thing work. And as this is taking shape, you'll notice I'm fast forwarding, but it's in a slower fast forward than I usually use. Hopefully it's slow enough you can kind of get an idea. You can kind of just see how it all just kind of pieces together nicely, building around our center area, making sure we've got the paths in the middle. Modak, I am finally plugged into what you were saying about using auto build. If I go into the pathing, I can collect the hit the build this with rubles option and it'll build those paths for me. So I am trying to do that and save myself the hassle of having to go back and do them later because they really are a pain. Now we need a road that's going to connect all the way back into our main city center, of course, because otherwise we won't be able to take advantage of all the services down there. But that's all we need. So if you'll notice too, all of the roads are being built as mud roads. And use that for your planning. And then now what I'm doing is I've turned on the auto build because these are a pain. And then I'm just kind of painting the community. So I'm just literally going through here and using the lighted streets with the sidewalks to do the key parts where people are going to be walking, and using the asphalt without the sidewalks for areas that are just going to be hauling buses back and forth. And also adding down here a new bus stop because we're getting crowded into downtown. So I've got a new bus stop, but I set it not to accept anybody. It doesn't take anybody at that bus stop yet. And so what we're going to do now you can see the whole plan's in place. There's the whole the little city is set, and of course we have a fire. But that fire is actually in our city, so I'm not even worried about it. I'm not even going to watch because I know it's going to get handled. Now we're going to upgrade the road that goes all the way up to the mine because one of our deals is going to be we're going to have buses running up to the mines. I accidentally built that one football field, didn't mean to. And Johnny, I think your comment's correct that the football fields are more efficient. They do handle more people, but Questlove wants his 1,000 tennis courts, so we got to keep building some of them. But the football fields really are more efficient. They allow more people to come in and play at one time. So I'm going to throw a little tennis court in here just to be doing it. So we've got like 3 playgrounds. I actually built one more than I meant to, but I've just kind of got them in there scattered around. That'll help with people who have that sport need. And now we go back down here and look, and it says that our fields are being sowing and stuff, but we don't really see any activity. Again, I think I have a corrupted farm, but you'll see what happens here in a little bit. So now we've got our city all planned out, ready to go. We just need money. So I'm just going to let this thing run. We've got a decent engine going. You can see 300 people working our refinery. We've got a whole bunch of people in the distillery, a lot of people in the food factory. So we're pumping it out pretty well here. We're covering all of our food and alcohol needs. We're covering our fuel needs now because we've got trucks hauling deliveries from the refinery, and we're making money. And again, I'm spending it as fast as I can because that's the way you play these games. When you make money, don't hold it, spend it, invest it in something else. So let's just let this thing really fast forward for a bit until we accumulate some funds. Right here, you notice I realized I'd forgotten one thing in the process. I'd forgotten to make that conveyor connection between the coal ore processing plant and the power plant. So all that coal would be created, but it wouldn't be going to our power plant. So fix that. And now I'm going to look into putting in the our wiring, so to speak. We're going to wire the city and go ahead and get that ready because we know where the power plant is. We can do our connections off of it for the high voltage lines, and we can connect up our medium voltage lines off of it as well. And I wanted to add a comment and give credit where it's due. I think the person's name was Craig Peterson, and I'm sorry, I don't remember, and I can't look it up because it was attached to the Part 3 video that I just replaced and deleted the old version, the comments in the old version. But at any rate, it goes like this. When you put a medium switch on, you've probably seen me draw a running medium line and then putting a switch on it so I can go off in another direction. That switch can only accept so many megawatts. I think it's 2.2. And your substation can only accept 2. So you've really once your city grows and starts really sucking up the power, you can get yourself in brownout situations. So what Craig Peterson, if indeed that is your name, suggested was running redundant lines. In other words, run a full line off of a transformer, or in our case here, off of the power plant. So what you're going to see me do is I'm going to run, yeah, and that 2.2, there's the 2.2 megawatts. That power line can only take 2.2. So if I put two, so yeah, that's the real point. The power line can only take 2.2 megawatts. Well, if I split that line and have two substations that together could take 4, I'm really not getting 4 megawatts capability out of it. I'm only getting the 2.2 that's on that line. So I need to run a separate line that can carry 2.2 to the second substation, and now I really can get 4 megawatts of power supply. So you'll see me run these lines out wherever needed as seemingly redundant lines, but I'm definitely not going to switch off of them and cut down the power. You could do that where you know you're not going to need the power, but when as your cities grow and you get brownouts are awful, because that means your businesses are going on and off, on and off, on and off, and it just messes up productivity and everything. So anyway, that's the story on that. So I apologize to whoever made that comment. It was a great comment. It's something I had contemplated before, but you really made it crystal clear with that reference to the medium line can only hold 2.2 megawatts of demand. That's really useful to know. So here I am. I'm going to build yet another set of medium wire, rather than switching or branching off of that one that's already up there. I'm going to run a redundant one. It makes you, it costs you because you have to run more wire, but it makes you a little more bulletproof in terms of brownouts. Okay, so I'm continuing to run the wire, and now here comes, honestly, a godsend. This is a fire all the way out at that farm. And of course, that farm's out in the middle of nowhere. We don't have any fire station out there or a way to get people out there. There's no way a truck could get out there in time to put out that fire. So we're just going to have to lose that farm. But as I said, that really is a good thing, because the farm was not behaving properly. It just didn't want to go out there and plant those fields the way it should be. So we're going to knock it down and build a new one. And I think that's going to reset the whole process for us in terms of getting us back in sync with the code and having the system run correctly. So this is just sort of, one of the things you have to kind of accept when you're running early access, is that everything isn't perfect all the time. So going to just simply rebuild that farm right back where it was. It'll automatically pick up the farms for us and assign them, start auto managing them. And now the bad news, I couldn't figure out a way to sell off those vehicles that were in there, so lost a bunch of vehicles. So it was not the cheapest fire in the world, but that's okay. We can rebuy them, and we're pretty strong now. We're getting there on the economy. We're not there yet, but we're getting there. So we're going to have our farm built now. It'll auto assign those fields, and you'll notice as soon as it does, if I'm not mistaken, our equipment's going to go right back out there and start working, which it hasn't been doing as soon as we buy some equipment here. So we're going to buy 4 tractors to do sowing. We're going to do 4 large trucks to haul the product in to the farm, and we're going to do 4 harvesters to go out and harvest. And there they go. See, they're going right back out and they're going to work. Well, that was not happening before, so there was definitely something wrong with that farm. But now, hopefully, we'll start see we're already harvesting stuff that was just sitting out there. So now we should see some activity, and we should see our farms start to grow and produce crops and take advantage of that train we've already moved out there to move crops into our food factory and our distillery. Now we are just waiting for money. Look at that. Our farms are working. Everything's working beautifully. We are waiting on funds. And I've chosen 1,000,000 rubles. I want to have 1,000,000 rubles in cash before starting to really build out that new community. Now we do have the roads laid. We do have the conveyors already built. There's some pre-work already done, and we've even built one football field by accident. But I want to hit 1,000,000 rubles, and just did a quick check here just to see how are we doing. And as you can see, we're almost at, I think we're actually at perfect happiness, and we're at 96% productivity. So our people are happy, they're working, they're effective, we're getting really good revenue stream because of that, because we have happy workers who are showing up. We've got well-supplied factories with lots of people working in them. Life is good, and we're starting to look like a viable republic at this point. So there, we've hit 1,000,000 rubles. and want to start building out the coal mines and the transfer engines and the aggregate store and the coal ore processing plant and the power plant. So we're just going to kind of work our way down the mountain, queuing these things up to build. And we'll just kind of build our way down the mountain, work our way all the way to the power plant. And then when we get that up and running, then we'll start bringing on flats so that people can start working. And the reason I wanted to wait, what I would recommend that you do not do, don't fall in the trap of saying, well, I could build my apartments now because I've got enough money for that. Don't do that, because it's a waste of time. Why would you want your apartments built? The people, even if you set up the infrastructure so they can go downtown and get their needs met, all you're doing is feeding people for no purpose because they're not working. The whole point of this is to have workers who work. This only works if workers work. So you want to have enough money so that you can build a lot of your infrastructure and a fair amount of your housing and your plants and everything that you want working right away, and afford some early imports, because even with our system, we're going to import some coal to get that plant going. We're going to import some ore to get that coal ore processing plant going before we have people running up to the mountainside to bring us coal ore. So we're going to have some imports. We got to be able to afford that, and we've got to be able to afford opening up these flats and staffing them with people. So that's where we are now. We've got our plants built. We've got our coal mine set up, all built, and now we are going to set up some auto purchase on the power plant to get it going. So there you go. Once you see that smoke, we are now producing power out of that plant. And as soon as feel comfortable that it's really is working, we'll switch over from exporting power to, we'll switch from importing power, which is costing us money, to exporting power, which will make us money. And we'll be able to supply the power for our entire republic from this one plant for the time being. We'll need more as we grow, of course. But for now, this thing will give us all the power we need and make us a few extra rubles on the side. So good deal. So now we're setting up that crucial line that takes people from the new community down to this new bus stop. I'm going to turn on passengers only for that new bus stop that's down here in downtown. And now we can copy that line, and we're going to have 4 buses that run back and forth, bringing passengers from our new community downtown so that they can have all their do all their shopping and their movie watching and their drinking and some of their ball playing, whatever they need, and life will be good, their happiness will grow, and we'll continue to have a happy, productive society. So that's the one piece. We've got to be able to get people down here to make them happy. So we're setting up the bus system now, and I'm just kind of waiting on each one to kind of stagger them out a little bit. And the bad news is the way this thing works. They come out of the vehicle, new vehicle comes out with limited fuel. It runs out pretty quickly, and no matter where it is, even if it's like 20 feet from the bus station, it will stop and go all the way to wherever a gas station is and fill up and then go back to where it was. So one of the things I do here is realize that, you know what, we could use a gas station up here. So that's going to get added as well. A gas station plus a truck, a tanker truck, to haul fuel to that gas station, so we're not importing fuel unnecessarily up here. So all we're going to do here now because we've got it already planned out and built, and we've got money, and you can see how much we've gone through. We're already down to like 100,000, and we still continue to have an income. So going through it at a good clip, bringing in immigrants is not cheap. It's very expensive. So we're just going to build up this whole thing, including the school and the kindergarten. And now it's time to think about our workers. We've got a bunch of workers queued up. They want to go to work. Well, where do we want them to go to work? We want them to go to the coal mine. So we're going to set up buses that run directly from that worker passenger station and drop them off right at the coal mine. So there's no doubt where they're going to go to work. That's where they're going to go. So pick up at the city at the worker station, take off and take those people up to the coal mine. And again, these buses are going to go through that same process of run out of fuel and go back and find it. And I haven't punched in yet and put in that extra gas station. So there, I copied the line from the first one. And I'll just wait a little bit so they can stagger. Let this one get on down the road a little bit. Start another one. And wait a little bit for him to get on down the road, and then start another one. And you can look at our cash. We're just bordering on zero now. Now, one of the things that's happening to us is we just brought in a whole bunch of new immigrants. What are they doing? They're all going downtown. They're all getting food. They're all getting, all that stuff that they're getting. They're getting clothing and electronics. And in the case of the clothing and electronics, it's costing us because we're having to import more to replace what is being purchased. The good news is the food isn't costing us. And there we go. Now we can switch over. We're happy that power plant's working. We'll switch over to export. And instead of spending money on power, now we're making money on power a little bit. And the main thing is we're not spending money on it. That's the big thing. And now I'm going to send a train off to go pick us up some funds because we're not exactly wealthy right now. It's just amazing how much money it takes to build out just one little community like this. And we're not even finished. There's a few more things to do. Haven't even done the school or the kindergarten yet. And we definitely want those because we've got to keep that education going to get that next generation ready to work. And the kindergarten, we've got to have the kindergarten because babies are going to start popping out of here like crazy. And if there's no place for them to go, the parent will not go to work. And now we're losing productivity. So here I'm putting in the gas station that I kind of wish I'd put in to start with. And where to put gas stations, I haven't really looked at that closely to make recommendations yet, but certainly I think putting one up here was a good idea to keep these buses from having to go all the way across town to the other side of town, which is the only place where there is a station right now. And this can even help that one that we have going way out there near the oil fields to carry fuel. That'll be a good place for him to top off his own fuel from time to time. All right, so there you have it. I think you can see our cash is starting to come back, and we've got it just about fully set up. Here's the truck that's going to run from the refinery, get full of fuel, go over to the gas station and unload. And we'll make sure it only holds fuel, lesson learned from before, and then we'll tell it to empty everything it has, and if it can't fit everything in there, it'll just sit there and wait until it can. So that's beautiful. So off it goes, and that's probably a great place for us to stop right here. Our cash is coming back. We're recovering. Real soon here, I'll go ahead and add the school. In fact, well, how about right now? I'll add the school, add the kindergarten, and now we should have a fully functioning system, and we can go ahead and add in the playgrounds too. That'll help. And these people should be happy. They should have no problem getting their needs met. They will drag down our overall numbers for a while. As you can see, they're not perfectly happy when they come on board, not even close. But those numbers will increase quickly as we efficiently get them downtown and get their needs met. So hopefully you saw something in that, but the main message I wanted to convey is the power of having this kind of modular approach where you have it organized so that you can leverage that downtown investment. Because imagine if we tried to build this over on the other side of that mountain as a separate town. Two things would happen to us. One is we would have to put in at least a cinema to keep everybody happy on these hard settings. And there's more cost and more people that have to work in it. And you'd probably want to go with the shopping center cinema combo. So you're basically building another downtown, which is more expensive, but it also takes more people to staff it. So now I have to not only build all the flats for the power plant and the processing plant and the coal mine, I got to build people to staff a cinema and a pub and a shopping center. So it just gets worse, and your investment gets bigger and bigger. And instead of that million, and it's really more like $1.5 million probably that we spent, instead of $1.5 million, you need 2 or 2.5. That's a lot of rubles. And plus you've got now redundant stuff because you're not going to get a whole lot of people in your new shopping center or your new grocery store. The way we're doing it here, by plugging it into the existing city, we're going to have a lot of people using those facilities efficiently. So I hope you got something out of that. I enjoyed it. I was very happy with how it turned out, and I hope you'll join us for our next one. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it'll help you become a better player, and I hope you'll join us for our next Workers and Resources Soviet Republic video. Thank you.